Hello, I welcome you all for this video lecture on file allocation methods in operating systems. We all know that for permanent storage of data and programs, we use files and store those files in the secondary storage devices like hard disks, CDs, USBs, etc. Files are stored in a hard disk as a collection of blocks. File allocation methods define how the files are stored in disk blocks, that is, how the disk blocks are allocated to files. The goals of the file allocation methods are efficient utilization of disk space and fast accessing of disk blocks, that is, to reduce the time complexity and space complexity. Next is the file allocation issues. While implementing the operating system module for file allocation methods, we should consider all these issues. That is, when a file is created, is the maximum space allocated to a file at once? Whether blocks are allocated as contiguous portions? What size should be the portion? Portion is nothing but one or more blocks. What data structure should be used to keep track of portions assigned to a file? These are the three commonly used file allocation methods: contiguous file allocation method, chain file allocation method, and indexed file allocation method. We'll see one by one in detail. First one is contiguous file allocation method. In this, contiguous set of blocks are allocated to a file at the time of creation itself. So it is called pre-allocation strategy. The address is assigned in the linear fashion, that is, in a sequential manner. A data structure called file allocation table FAT is used to keep track of blocks allocated to the files. For each file, one entry is maintained in a file allocation table. File allocation table contains name of the file, start block address, and number of blocks assigned to the file. See this disk that is shown in figure. You consider this as a hard disk, consists of 35 blocks numbered from 0 to 34. 5 files are stored in a disk. Three blocks are assigned to file A, 5 blocks are assigned to file B, 8 blocks are assigned to file C, 2 blocks are assigned to file D, and 3 blocks are assigned to file E. Depending on the file size and block size, the number of blocks are allocated to a file. For example, size of file X is 100 MB and each block size is 20 MB, then 5 blocks should be allocated to a file X. Since the blocks are allocated contiguously, multiple blocks can be read at a time. Next is the advantages and disadvantages of contiguous file allocation scheme. First one is advantages. It supports both sequential access and direct access of a file. For direct access, we can use the address b plus I minus 1 to access the ith block, where b is the start block address of a file. In this, access time is very less. Next is the disadvantages. It suffers from internal and external fragmentation. So memory utilization is inefficient. To use the memory efficiently, we need to perform compaction process. It is very time consuming process. Sometimes it is very difficult to allocate the contiguous memory if we do any updation in the file. This diagram shows how the disk blocks are arranged after compaction process. Here, allocated blocks are contiguously arranged, followed by free blocks, so that it will be easy to allocate contiguous blocks to new files. Next is the chained file allocation method. Here, disk blocks are allocated non-contiguously. That is, allocation is on the basis of individual blocks. Here, disk blocks are allocated to a file is arranged in a linked list form. That is, each block contains a pointer to the next block in the chain. Here also, file allocation table contains one entry for a file. Look at the diagram. Here, for file B, 5 disk blocks are allocated. Address of those 5 disk blocks are 1, 8, 3, 14, and 28. All these blocks are linked together. Next, we'll see advantages and disadvantages of this allocation method. Advantages: this physical organization is suitable for sequential files. File size can be increased easily because of non-contiguous allocation. No external fragmentation because only one block is needed at a time. Next is the disadvantages. To access a block of a file requires tracing through chain uh, to the desired block. To prevent this, consolidation process must be done. That is, move the data which are present in the data blocks for a particular file to the contiguous blocks. That is called as consolidation. This diagram shows chained allocation after consolidation. The data which are present in the disk blocks 1, 8, 3, 14 and 28 are moved to the blocks 0 to 4. Next is the indexed file allocation. Here also disk blocks are allocated non-contiguously, but they are not chained together. Instead, a special block known as the index block is maintained, and address of all the blocks occupied by a file is stored in the index block. The index has one entry for each portion allocated to a file. Address of index block is stored in file allocation table. Here allocation may be either block portions or variable length portions. Block portion means single block is allocated at a time. Variable length portions means set of blocks are allocated at a time. See this diagram. This is index file allocation with block portions. Here for file B, the 5 blocks 1, 8, 3, 14 and 28 are allocated. Index block is 24. Index block is 24 in which the address of all these 5 blocks are stored. See this diagram. This is indexed allocation with variable length portion. Here for file B, 3 set of blocks are allocated. These set of blocks are called portions. The first portion contains 3 blocks, that is from block 1 to block 3. Second portion contains 4 blocks, that is 28th block to 31st block. Third portion contains only one block, that is 14. Index block is 24. In this block, the table with 2 fields, that is start block and length of blocks allocated to file, is stored in the index block. In the fact, address of index block is stored. Here also, file consolidation may be done from time to time. Next is the disadvantages and advantages of file allocation method. First one is advantages. This supports both sequential and random access of the files. It provides faster access of file blocks, free from the problem of see this diagram. This is indexed allocation with variable length portion. Here for file B, 3 set of blocks are allocated. These are called portions. First portion contains 3 blocks, that is block 1 to 3. Second portion contains 4 blocks, that is block 28 to 31. And the third portion contains only one block, that is 14th block. Index block is 24. In that block, the table with 2 fields, that is start block and the length of blocks allocated, is stored. In the file allocation table, the address of the index block, that is 24, is stored. Here also, file consolidation may be done from time to time. Next, advantages and disadvantages of indexed file allocation method. First is advantages. It supports both sequential and random access of the files, provides fast access of file blocks, free from problem of external fragmentation. Disadvantages. Here, memory is wasted due to separate index block for storing addresses, so it is inefficient in terms of memory utilization. Thank you.